Hello everyone, welcome to our first stream after the work from home and every other thing. So today we are going to learn about Node.js and Deno, how the both compare to each other, what is the benefits of Node and what are the benefits of Deno. So the cool thing is the creator of both Deno and Node is the same person. So we'll get to know more about it in our session. We'll be starting in around 4 to 5 minutes as soon as everyone has joined the chat and the video. So stay tuned for more. Okay, so meanwhile, since till we get started, we can do some interaction in the chat. So let's try to make things a bit more interactive. And so, how many of you people have at least tried Node once, and what are your opinions about it? You can post it in chat, and we can have some interactions. So I have tried Deno. It's the best thing about it is that you get inbuilt TypeScript support. That's the best thing you can get with Java, like with Deno, because like when you try Node with TypeScript, it's like you have to set up some kind of compiler and do so many stuff like a mad scientist. So I guess Deno is very cool in that way. And here we are adding Dhruti and Jinal to the stream, and they are going to start in around a minute. So I am switching the mic over to Jinal Shah and Dhruti. Okay, one thing I forgot is to give a brief intro about both of them. So Jinal Shah is our co-organizer at GDG Gandhinagar, and he is a founder of Brain Urja Creations. And Dhruti Joshi is our WTM organizer, and both of them are pretty much very good at Java, all the things JavaScript. So let me hand the mic over to them. So see you at the end of the stream. Have fun.
Yeah, thank you, Parth. Thank you so much. So yes, we are live again, and we are like not active for around 2 months, but now we started with this Node and Deno series for you. So this is first of all we started with getting started with Node and Deno, and then after based on the poll and the requirements, we can continue the conduct the series more and with more and more details, right? So with me we have Dhruti with us, and she will going to take the Node part, and I'll be going to take the Deno part, and at least we will try to do this in parallelly. So let's hope for the best. Yes, over to you, Dhruti. Your mic is muted. Just a second. Yeah, you are now audible.
Thank you, Jinal. Welcome, everyone. I hope you all are safe and healthy. I am feeling lucky to having this type of amazing audience, and I am very excited to present my talk on Node.js. The topics that I will cover today are very basic and enough to get started with Node.js. This will definitely help to those who are new to Node.js because I am explaining this from scratch. Jinal and Parth both have already given my introduction to you. So without wasting more time, let's dive to learn Node.js. So before learning anything new, you need to ask yourself why you need to learn this and what is this. So the first question is, what is Node.js? So in non-technical term, we can say that Node.js is JavaScript on server. And in technical terms, it is JavaScript runtime built on Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. Node.js is an open source server environment. It uses asynchronous event-driven JavaScript. It eliminates the waiting and simply continues with the next request. It is designed in a way that we can create scalable network applications. Now, one more question comes in your mind, that why Node.js? So, Node.js is non-blocking. So, that means it doesn't make the program wait, but instead it registers a callback and lets the program continue. This means it can handle concurrent operations without multiple threads of execution, and so that it can scale pretty well. I hope you guys can have basic idea about what is Node.js and why Node.js is. So let's move on to the environment setup. So this is the official website of the Node.js, that is nodejs.org. From this, you can get the MSI for Node.js. It comes with NPM, that is Node Package Manager. After installing Node.js, we can check the version of both Node.js and NPM. For that, we need to open the command prompt and we need to type two commands. The first is node-v, that will give us the version of the Node.js. And the second command is npm-v, that will give us the version of the npm. That's it. We are ready to go. Okay. So now let's start the hands-on. I've already created one blank application and I am opening this in Visual Studio Code. You can choose any IDE of your choice. So here you can see this application is totally blank. Okay, so I'm creating the first file and name it as app.js. Now let's see how we can declare variable in Node.js and how we can assign the value to the variable. The syntax is similar to the JavaScript syntax. We can declare the variable using the var keyword and assigning to the value. So I am assigning the value here. And after that, we can print the value using the console.log as we are doing in the JavaScript. So here I am using the console.log and giving the variable that we need to print. That's it. Now we need to run the application. For that, we need to open the integrated terminal by pressing the Ctrl plus tilde and need to type one command, and that is node space name of the file that we need to run. So in our case, I am writing node space app.js. So you can see the output is here as we have print the output using the console.log. Cool. It's pretty simple, right? Yes. Now let's see how we can work with built-in modules like file system. Now file system is a very basic requirement of any project. So let's see how we can work. Almost everyone knows that we need to import some library file to work with files. Am I right? Yes. So similarly, here we also need to import something to work with files. Node.js comes with built-in modules, and from that, we will use file system module to work with files. Now, how we can import that module? For that, we will need to use the require method. So let's see how we can run. So I'm commenting this code for the future reference. Now let's see how we can import the module. So for that, I'm declaring one variable like this and import the module using the require method. Require method, inside the require method, we need to pass the name of the module. So in our case, it's fs, right? Then I'm creating one more variable to save the data that we need to write inside the file. So I'm creating one variable and assigning this the basic value. Now, what we need to do is we need to write data into the file. So for that, we'll use fs object and write file method of the file system module. This method has two arguments. The first is the name of the file inside which we need to write the content. So I'm passing demo.txt. And the second argument is the data that we need to write inside the file. So in our case, I'm passing our variable. The next argument is the callback function that will call after the file has been written successfully. And inside that, we can print the message in the console. Okay, I'm printing the message completed. Okay, now let's run the application. Now again moving to the terminal using the Ctrl+style sign and writing the command node space app.js. I'm entering. So you can see we have the message completed. That means the file has been created successfully. So I'm going to the Explorer and let's check the file is created. Yes, the file is there and the content is also there. It's great, right? And in the latest syntax, we can use promises as well. For that, we need to mention the promises while we import the module, like this. Okay? And then we need to remove the callback function from here. And then we need to write the send function. Similar like this. Okay? This will call after the file has been created successfully, as we are doing in the callback function. So I'm printing the message. Okay, now let's again run the application. Cool. We get the output and the file has been created successfully as well. Cool. Now let's see how this can be done in Deno, and that will be explained by Jinal. Over to you, Jinal.
Yeah, thanks, Dhruti, for a very good introduction to getting started with Node.js. And now let me just share my screen and let me just start with Deno. All right, so I'm just sharing my screen. All right. So, all right, guys. I think you have heard a lot since the Deno is released about what is Deno and why the Deno, and you probably hear about the features of Denos and everything, right? But let me just start with the small presentation I prepared, because I'm not good at creating the PPTs. So I'll be just doing the hands-on things. But before starting, let me just give you the small example of what is Deno, why we need it, and is that after coming off Deno, Node is going to deprecated, or people are moving to the Deno. So I just want to answer that some of the questions you might have, and then we will go with the hands-on thing. All right. So according to the definition, Deno is a simple, modern, and a secure runtime for JavaScript and a TypeScript. Deno uses Chrome's V8 engine and it builds on Rust language. Now, if you can understand the definition, again, the definition is the same as for the Node.js. Then Node.js is a JavaScript and it uses Chrome's V8 engine. Make sense? So this is the same definition we have for the Deno. So you can argue like, is the Deno is the same as the Node.js? So I could say no, there are some advantages or some features added to the Deno. Like say for example, Deno supports both JavaScript and a TypeScript. Now again, you can argue, like in a Node.js, we can create a Node application using TypeScript also, right? But you can create the application using a TypeScript with the Node.js, but that Node.js executables are not capable of executing your TypeScript code. For running that TypeScript code, that first have to compile to the JavaScript code. Then only your Node.js will able to run that. Making sense? So this is the case. In other hand, for the Deno to run it, we have to switch. The Deno provides built-in supports for a TypeScript file. Deno has that built-in compiler to compile our TypeScript code. Make sense? So now, second thing is Deno supports URL imports. Now, what does that mean? So as Dhruti had shown you, like we have to import that file system package. And for that, this is the in core API. For that, we don't need anything for npm install, or we don't need to use that npm package manager. But those who are somewhat of Node background, they know for using any third-party package in your Node.js application, you have to use that npm package manager, and you have to download that package first, right, into Node modules. Whereas in a Deno, we have URL imports. So you have to import the packages through the URL, and that will be downloaded on the fly. Make sense? And then Deno provides security by default. So here this statement again conflict with some of the Node lovers. Like they can say like that I am trying to say that Node is not secure. So I'm not trying to say that Node is not secure or it is a less secure, but Deno providing more security. So in the case, my friend Dhruti had shown you the demo using the file system. So she just created a file using that file system package, and that file is got created on a Node.js application, right? So if I implement the same demo using the Deno, then we need to pass an explicit permission for writing a file, reading a file. So we will see how we can. But as of now, you need to understand that Deno is providing us extra security. Make sense? Then as a next, why we need a Deno then? All right. So the creator of Node.js, Ryan, is now any more happy with Node.js features. So he want to implement some of the features that are not present in Node.js. So what he has done, he tried to implement those new features inside a Deno application. So you can say the Deno is an enhanced version of a Node.js. Making sense? So then again, we can say like in one of his talk, he has already mentioned like these are the features that he would like to add with the latest version of Deno. So again, the question is Node is going to deprecate it, or let us say we should learn the Deno right now? So again, I am saying that Node is not going anywhere. Keep my word. And again, this is not said by me. This is again said by the creator of Deno and Node, Ryan himself. He is saying that Node has a large ecosystem. It is used in a production for thousands of companies. So it is not going to anywhere. It is just that if you want to try the new feature, the latest features, then you can give it a try to Deno. That is it. Node is not going anywhere. So do not get confused between this. And then this is a final comparison between small comparison between Deno and Node.js. So Deno supports TypeScript out of the box, and whereas it supports all the modern features of JavaScripts like promises, in-browser APIs, URL imports, securities, and more. Whereas Node supports, you can say mostly all the features, but some of the features are still missing in Node.js. And instead of URL imports, we have here the file system. But Do you have to think like that? Do we really need all the enhancement in our application? Then you can switch to the Deno. And still, if you do not need all the enhancement Deno is having, then you are good with Node.js. Make sense? Node, I'm repeating again, established and highly used ecosystem, production proven, used in thousands of companies. Make sense? So this is what about like why Node and what is Deno. Let me just go ahead with the installation, and let us just try to run our first Deno application. So this is the official URL for this Deno documentation, deno.land. Yes, you read it correct. It is deno.land. And on that deno.land, if you can navigate to this install tab, and over here, based on your operating system, you can select it. So in my case, I'm working on a Windows, so I'll be select this. And if I open up that Windows PowerShell, and just I have to paste that command. So over here, I can just paste this command and hit enter. So I'm not going to do it again because I have already done this in my local machine. So I don't need to do it again. But for Windows machine, you just need to hit enter, and then everything will be good. Your Deno will be installed. And as we check for that node, you can just simply write a Deno command, and then you can just perform any of the arithmetic operation, and you can see like Deno is installed or not. So in my case, Deno is already installed. And so just let us try with creating or writing our first Deno code. Make sense? So I'll be implementing two practicals, what my friend Dhruti has already shown to you. I have created this blank directory, so nothing inside that. I'm just creating a new file over here, and I'll name it to app.ts. And let me just move my screen to the full screen so you can able to see it. So over here, what I'll do is I'll just create a variable. So I can say, so here we are writing it using a TypeScript. So we can use all the features of TypeScript. So over here, I could say lat message, and I can assign it a type. So here I can say lat message should be type of string, and I can assign it hello world. Make sense? And now I can just simply print that console.log and printing my variable. This is simple, right? Now, in order to use that IntelliSense or Deno properties, you can install this extension on VS Code. You can just type for the Deno extension, and you can install this Deno extension. So I have already installed it. And if you want to use, you can use it on your IDE. Now let me just use that integrated terminal, and let me just go and run this app.ts file. So I could say Deno run and then app.ts. Making sense? And that will first compile our file, and then you can see hello world as our output. Right? Now as a next step, what I will do, I'll just make it comment so that you can use it for your future reference. I will go and create the second thing, and the second thing that I want to create the same file using the Deno application, right? So what I can do over here, I can just create a variable. So I can say like const data, and I could say this is a sample text. And then what I can do is I can use that Deno object. So here, why my IDE is not complaining about that Deno object? Because I have already installed that Deno extension. All right. So what I told you, right? So if you install that extension, then your IDE will not complain about this Deno object. And then on Deno object, I can use that inbuilt API. So this write file I can use, and on that write file, if you can see, it has two arguments. First, we have to specify the file name, and the second is the what data you want to write inside your file. So here I could say like I want to create this, let us say demo.txt, and as a next argument we have to pass the data. but that should be in a particular format, encoder. So now we cannot append the string directly, right? So for that we have to use the encoder. So over here I could say const and encoder, that should be new, and sorry, encoder, and then I can use that text encoder over here, and then here I could say let us say const output, and here I could say encoder dot encode, and again I'm encoding my string value. Make sense? And then I can use that output as a next argument of my write file method. All right, so if you can hover on this write file method, again you can see it will return us the promise. All right, so we can use over here like then, and for that we can use the then will be used for a successful response. So over here I can use that arrow function syntax, and then I can say, let us say console.log, and here I can say finish. All right, and same way you can also use that catch. So over here you can also use that catch. Now that catch is used for error handling. So if you get the any error while creating the file, then it will navigate to the catch block. Make sense? So that is how your first demo for creating a file using Deno is done. Now let me just open up the terminal and try to run this Deno file. So again the command is Deno run, and then I can say app.ps. Now if I press enter, it will complaining about the security. That is what I have already mentioned in my slide. Deno is more secure. So here if you can read the error, it is complaining about we have to pass this allow write flag. This is what I had already told you while that Dhruti has created the same demo in a Node.js. There you don't need to pass any explicit flags. But in case of Deno, you have to pass that explicit flags due to the securities. So now let me just copy that flag, and again on my command prompt, before writing the file name, let me just give that allow write. And with the write flag, you can also specify the file name for particular which file you want to allow a write permission. But that's fine. I'm just using that Deno run allow write on app.ts. And again, let me just hit enter, and you can read the message finished. And let me just open up my solution explorer. Here you can see the file is created and the name is demo.txt. All right, and the sample text is already there. Making sense? This is how we can create our first hello world as well as the write operation with the file in our Deno application. Now, as a next step, my friend will explain you about that how we can create an HTTP server with Node.js first, and then we will implement the same thing with the Deno. All right. So again, I am handing over this to Dhruti. So over to you, Dhruti, and I'm just muting myself.
Thank you, Jinal. You have given the great talk on Deno. So yeah, again, I'm presenting for the Node. So Node.js has a built-in module called HTTP, which allows Node.js to transfer data over the hypertext transfer protocol. So let's see how we can create the server and how we can pass the data to the server. So I'm commenting this code for the future reference, and then first we need to import the HTTP module. So for that, we will use the require method that we have used previously. So I'm using require. Inside the require, we need to pass the name of the module that we need to import. So right now we are importing the HTTP module. So now after that, we are going to create the server. So I'm creating one variable const, the name of the variable equals to, we can create the server using the create server method of the HTTP object. So the name of the object is HTTP dot The name of the method is create server. This method has two arguments. One is request and the other one is response. And in this, we can pass the response to the server like this, response.end, and pass the data. So I'm passing hello world. Okay. After that, we need to set the port number for our server. So server dot listen, and we'll pass the number of the port. So I'm passing 3000. Cool. It's pretty easy. We have created the server. Now let's run the application. So I'm moving to the terminal and writing the command node app.js. So our server is listening at 3000. Let's go to the Google Chrome and let's check localhost 3000. So here is the output. I think it's very easy to create the server and passing the data to the server using the HTTP. Now let's see how we can create Hello World application using HTTP in Deno. Over to you, Jinal.
Thank you. So again, I'll be sharing my screen, and let me just adjust the screen first. All right, so for the Deno to implement this HTTP server, we can use that standard libraries. So Deno has standard libraries, runtime APIs, and third-party modules on its official website. So here you can click on this standard library, and then you can navigate to this HTTP directory, or you can say HTTP package. On that HTTP package, they have documented it very well. So here, as I already told you in one of the slide, that for Deno, you do not need to use that require or that node modules. Make sense? So we are using that URL imports. So over here, we are importing the package from the URLs. Making sense? So I'll be doing the same thing for creating first HTTP server. And those who are new to Deno and Node.js, they might be wondering why we require the HTTP server. So we are going to create a REST API using Deno and Node.js both. And for the REST API, we need a HTTP server to handle our request and response. Making sense? So first, let me just go ahead and create the server in our Deno application. All right. So I'm back on my application, and let me just again comment this everything out. And all right, so here, what I can do over here, we can use that import as a statement syntax. And now over here, we have to pass that URL, which is just I have copied from the original documentation. Make sense? So this is the second feature of Deno. It uses URL imports. Now URL imports, this package will be downloaded on the fly. So whenever I run this application for the first time, it will take some time to download that package, but on a repeat run, it will be served it from the cache. Making sense? Now let me just import the serve package over here. And then let me just use that const and server, and I could say serve. I'm using that imported package, and then I could say the port number. So inside that, I can use the port number. So here I can use, I'm using the port number to 4000 because, Dhruti is running her application on a 3000. So I don't want to make you guys confused for the port number. So here I'm using the port number to this 4000. And then here, this is like we are creating the server. So here I'm writing the for and await, and then I can say like const, and then we can say like I want to look through all the requests received from the server, and then I want to send the response back to the user. So over here I could say this request dot respond, and then I can send the response back to the user inside my body. So here I could say, let us say hello world. Make sense? That is how our first basic server is created, HTTP server. And here you can see we are using await, but not using async. Deno using top level of await. So we did not use required to use async over here. Making sense? Now again, in order to let us say run this page, if I'm using that terminal and if I say Deno run and then app.ts, again it will see first it will take some time to download that package, and then it will complain us about the permission, because now we are using HTTP network, so we need to pass that network flag. All right, so again with to run this application I have to use that -- allow net. Make sense? And then if I run this application again, and now let me just open up my browser and let me just navigate to that local host and 4000. All right, and then you can see this hello world is up and running. Now this is about like all the basics you need to know before starting with Node or Deno. So we have started from a hello world. We created this file system. Then we simply move to the HTTP server. And now Dhruti will show you how we can use a middleware, because middleware will be required, or you can say it will make your job easy to perform the REST API. So with the Node.js, Express is the most popular framework, or you can say a middleware. So Dhruti will going to explain Express and a Node, and then I'll be using the same middleware in a Deno, but the name of the middleware is not an Express. So we will see how we can implement both REST APIs, same for a Node.js and for a Deno. So again, over to you, Dhruti.
Thank you, Jinal. Okay, so now we will use the Express as a middleware. So before continuing, we should know what is Express. Express is a minimal and flexible Node.js web application framework that provides a robust set of features to develop web and mobile applications. It facilitates the rapid development of node-based web applications. With a myriad of HTTP utility methods and middleware at your disposal, creating a robust API is quick and easy. Express provides a thin layer of fundamental web application features without obscuring Node.js features that you know and love. It lets you structure a web application to handle multiple different HTTP requests at a specific URL. Now, you may have questioned that how we can integrate the Express framework in the application that is already created. So don't worry, that's not an issue. We can do it very easily. We need to write one command, and that will install the Express in our application locally. So let's do it now. So I'm opening my application and writing that command that will install the Express. And that is npm space install space express space -- save. This command will install the Express in our local, and that will create one folder inside the node modules folder. So we can see the folder inside the node modules folder. Great. So the installation has been done. So now let's see how we can use the Express middleware. So I'm commenting this all code. And now let's see how we can work with the Express. So for that, first we need to import the Express package. Okay, so I'm declaring one variable and importing the package using the require method that we did previously. Inside this, I'm passing the name of the package that we need to import. After that, Our app will use the Express as a middleware, like this. Now, we will use app.get, and this will have argument. As this, I am passing the slash, and as a second parameter is a callback function. So I am creating a callback function with the request and response, and inside that I am setting the response dot send, and passing the content to the server using the Express middleware. So again, I'm passing hello world. That's it. Now again, we'll set the port for our application using the app.listen and the number of the port, that is 3000. Cool. Now let's run the application, going to the terminal and returning the command app.js. So let's go to the Chrome and check. So localhost 3000. So here is the output. Okay. Now let's see how we can do the same thing in Deno. Over to you, Jinal.
So thank you so much, Dhruti, and nicely explained how we can integrate the Express with a Node.js application. So let me just start my screen again, and let me just go and use that middleware for Deno framework. All right. So I'll be using that official documentation, and here, if you can navigate to this third-party modules, and on your third-party modules, you have like 673 modules available currently. So some of you you have a question like, is Deno is production ready? So I already told you, like Deno, as per the creator or as per the official documentation, Deno is in a stable phase. So you can definitely use it for the production, but depending on your application requirement, you can use it for the production. Make sense? Again, it's a small ecosystem, so I would not suggest, or I would not say like you can easily move it to the Deno, but you can at least give it a try for a small of the project if you want to try the Deno. And as we are doing it parallelly, so you can easily understand how easy it is from switching from Node.js to Deno. All right. So here you can search for Oak. Now Oak is a middleware that we are using for Deno for that replacement of a Express framework. All right. So here you can search for that Oak, and here you can see like this Oak is like if you select this main, it will redirect you to the latest release, and here you have the all the documentation readily available. So what you have to do, just copy this URL, and on our application we will need to use this. Make sense? So now I am using that Oak framework as a middleware for my Deno application. All right, so just let me just comment it out, and now over here let me just create the server using the Deno. So for that, we can use import as a statement syntax, and then inside that we have to specify that URL, right? So again, I'm saying http deno.land x and oak. So here I'm pointing to the Oak framework. Make sense? Now the question is, the Deno is continuously the package is third-party modules are continuously in improvement phase. So if you are using Deno in a production mode and then you want to stick with a particular package, then here in URL you can specify the particular version number. So in my case, I will be saying like I want to stick to the version number 5.2.0. Make sense? So here, if you visit the official documentation, and then over here, you can see this many versions are there. So I am sticking to the version 5.2.0. So you can use any of the version that you have used for production. All right. So here I'll be using that particular version number. So this is another way of importing the package if you really want to stick to the particular version. Make sense? Now I am importing the application package from the oak. So here I could say application, and then what I'll do over here, I could say const app, and I'll be using that constructor function, and I can call the application. So this is the same thing what we are doing it for Express, and then now inside this I can use that oak as a middleware. So I can say app.use, and those who are familiar with an Express and a Node.js, they see it like similar what we are doing for the Express and a Node.js. Make sense? And then usually in a Node.js, we are managing the argument with request, response, and a next. Make sense? So in a Node.js, we will be managing that request and response as a separate argument. But in a Deno, we can manage request and response through the context only. So here I can take only a single parameter and I name it to context. Should be type of any, and then I'll be using that arrow function syntax, and inside that I could say context dot response. So I can manage response from the context object itself, and then I could say body, and then again I am returning over here, let us say hello world. Make sense? So that is it. And now we have to start our server. So over here again I'll be using that await on a top of application. So then I don't need to write async, and then I could say app.listen, and on that listen method we have to pass the port number. So over here again I'll pass my port number to 4000, and now let me just run this application again. So again I could use that Deno run, and you are now know that we need to pass that allow net flag in order to run our application. Making sense? So over here I could say app.ps, and then if I just open up my browser and let me just navigate to localhost 4000, and let me just recheck with this. Yes, now this is up and running hello world, but now this time it is with our middleware. Make sense? So this is about the basics of Deno and Node both. We started with hello world, then we create the HTTP server using the core package, and now this time we have created the server using that third party tool, oak framework. Make sense? And then I already covered like how you can fix the specific package number on your import. Making sense? Now as a next step, what I want to do is I want to cover the REST API using Deno first. Then Dhruti will implement the REST API with the Node.js. All right. So let us just try to create the REST API with the Deno.js. Right. So let me just create a directory inside my solution explorer, and let me just name it to, let us say, modules, and on that modules I'll be creating one more directory, and I could say to-dos. All right. And for the demo purpose and for this application, we are not making a call to the actual database today, but we will be doing it from the array itself, and we will be creating a get, post, put, and delete, and then we will create the REST API with the actual database in the next webinar. All right. So let me just stop server right now, and on my to-dos directory, we will going to create two files. One is todos.controller.ts. So this file is responsible for manage all our routes and to-dos routes, and then again I'll require todos.ts. Now this will be the class. Inside this class I'll be creating the method like add to do, delete to do, update to do, and all. Making sense? So let me just first create an normal array first. So let us just say let to do's. Now here we are using a TypeScript, so we can assign it a type, right? And to assign it a type, let me just go ahead and create the interface first. So again, I'll be using that todo.ts, and here I'll be creating the interface. So those who are familiar with the TypeScript, they know the features of TypeScript, right? So here I can create the interface first. So to save our time, let me just go ahead and copy the interface. So what I can do over here, so I'll name it interface to do, and that is having three properties: ID, title, and status. And I keep all the properties to type string. Make sense? And now, in order to use this interface in other pages or in our other classes, we need to export it, right? So I'm just using that export. In a Node.js, you will be generally familiar with module.exports. Make sense? But in a Deno, we can use just export as a keyword. All right, so we have created the interface. Now on our class, we have to use that interface, right? So over here, I can import that local file. You have already seen how we can import the URL. Now we are going to import a local file. So over here, I could say to-dos. Now with the Deno, you have to specify the extension. File extension is must. So over here, I am just giving todo.ts, and then we can import that to-do interface. So now over here, I can say like to-do array, and then let me just go ahead and initialize that to-do array with some value. So over here, I have just initialized it with one single property or one single object. You can see like we have created this to do with ID 1, and then title to learn Deno, and status to pending. All right. Then over here, I'll go and create a class. So here we are using a TypeScript, and in a TypeScript, we can create a class. So here I can say to-dos, and then inside that to-dos class, we can create a method. So here I can say get all to-dos. All right. And then, as I told you, Deno is using that request and response through a single object context. So I will be taking a context as my argument. So here I could say context should be type of any. And then inside that, I'll be just simply returning the response back to the user. So over here, I could say context dot response dot you can say status, and I can pass the status to 200, and then I can just say like response dot body, and on body I'll be passing the success to true, and data I'll be just returning my array. Making sense? So that is our first method is created. Now let me just go ahead and create one more method, and in this method we will see how we can add new to-dos to the list, right? So here I'll be creating one method, and I'll name it to add to-do, and again we will need a context as an argument. But now this time, from this add to-do method, we are going to pass our body, right? So over here, what we can do is we first need to check how we can extract the body from the request. All right. So this is something different from a Node.js. So over here, what I can do is I can say const data, and then here I can use that context dot request dot body method. Make sense? And then it will take some time to extract the body from the request. So I'll be using that await. So what I'm saying to the Deno, wait for this line to finish. And for this, we have to use async keyword. So you have to understand this. We are not using that top level await inside our method, right? On that await, where I'm used this app.listen, here we are using top level of await. So we don't need to write async over here. But in that class, we are just using that await for this body, and that for that we have to write the async for your method. Make sense? Then what I'm doing over here, I can check for the body whether you have passed the body or not. So over here, I can check like context dot let us say request. So request dot hash body. Now this hash body is available in let us say that Oak framework, right? So here I can check if it is not available. So then what I can do, I just simply want to return back from here. So what I'll do over here, I can just simply say response.status to 400, and on my body I can say success to false. I can say no data provided and return back. Make sense? And if we have the body, then now we need to add this newly created object. You can say that to do object to our to do's list, right? So what I'll do over here, I just simply create a new to do object and I'll assign it a value from the data. Now this data is this, we already extracted from the body you passed. Make sense? And then we create the first object over here, and then we will push it to our local array. So this time we are doing it with array only. So we just passing it in inside the array. But when you guys want to do it with actual database, you just make a call to this to do to your insert query. That is it. Nothing fancy. All right. And then here I'll be returning the status back. All right. So I have created this to do two methods, get all to dos and add to dos. Now let me just go ahead and check whether these two methods are working or not. So on my app.ts, we have to make some adjustment in order to run this to do. So I'm just get rid of this, or let me just comment it everything, because you can use it later on. And let me just create the server again. So over here, I'll now get rid of this. And here we have to like first on our controller, sorry, on our to do class, we have to like export this class because we want to use this methods, right, on our controller. So first, now let us move to the controller, and on my controller, let me just create the router first. So for that, we need to use that same import, because we will require this import to get the router, right? So over here, I can say the same package number, but instead of application, now I will use the router package. Make sense? And then we need to import our local file also. For that, I could say todos.ts. Make sure you need to specify the extension, all right? And then todos class. Now, let me just create or instantiate the router object first. So I could say new router. And the same way, let me just use that to-dos object to make it new to-dos. All right. And now what we can do, we can simply create two paths. So again, here what I'm saying is router dot my method type. If again that method type should be get, and there is to-dos after my base path, then go and call my get all to-dos method. And if router dot post, and then after the base path is localhost 400, 4000, and then after the URL would be to-dos, then call my add to-dos method. Make sense? Now what I want to do is next, I have to export this router object. So again, here I'll be using that export default and a router. Now what this default means, so if you want to just export a single object only, you can also use this default. All right. So now we already have created our router, let us say controller. We already created this class. So now on our app.ts, we just need to make a few adjustments. We just have to register our controller, right? So on our app.ts, let me just go ahead and create the modules and to-dos controller.ts. Making sense? And here we need to adjust our import, because here we are making a default export, so we can give it any name. So over here I could say to do controller, and then with the middleware we have to use app.use to do controller.routes. We have to call this routes method of our Oak framework, and then we can also use allow methods. So to do controller and allow methods. Make sense? This two we have to register with our middleware. That is it. We are ready with our REST API. So now let me just go ahead and call this Deno run method, and let me just open up the Postman first, and let me just try to make a get call to this endpoint. And yes, let us just wait for it. So first we have to refresh. Yeah, so happens sometimes. So this is how we are able to receive our first array, first object of to do. Make sense? Now let us go ahead and switch it to post method. And for the post method, we have to pass the object through the body. And on my body, I am just passing that object ID, title, and status. Make sense? And then if I press the send, and if I wait for the response, you can see success to true, and we are returning the same object back. Now to check whether this object is added to the list or not, let me just go ahead and make a get call again, and it should return us all the objects. Making sense? Now to check that hash body method is working or not, let me just go on the post, and on my body, let me just get rid of this, and let me just make a call to the post request without a body. Make sense? There we are checking for that hash body. So now let us just wait for the response, and over here you can see it is throwing us that internal server error. So that is something is not right, but that's fine. I'll check it for later on. But it should say that here it should output it like context hash body, and response should be no data provided. But I can come back to this later on. The same way how we created this add method for this get all to dos, we can also create a method for a delete. All right, so let me just go ahead and create a method for delete. So I'll just show the delete method, because for that delete we are using that params, and for that add to do we are using that body object. All right, so what I can do over here, I can create a method delete to do. Again, that will have a context as an argument. All right, and here we can extract the let us say that id from context.params.todo id. Making sense? And then whatever the array operation you want to do, you can make a delete call. All right, and for that delete, you can register its routes to the controller. So over here I could say router dot delete, and then I could say to dos, and over here you have to pass the id. So on your controller over here I could say to do id. Make sense? And instead of that add to do, let me just go and call the delete to do. That is how we can create our first REST API with Deno. All right, so I have created, I'm repeating the things again. If you are not getting it, just be with me, guys. I'm just repeating the entire thing again. So for that oak framework, we have added that app.ts, and on our app.ts we have instantiated that oak using that application constructor function. And here this app is in reference to this application object, and here I'm listening to port number 4000. Make sense? For that I already created the controller, and on that controller I have registered my routes for my to do routes. Make sense? So whenever you start your Deno application, first request will come to app.ts, then app.ts will navigate that request to this to do controller, and then on to do controller it will check for the path. So first it will check the method. If the method is should be type of get, and then after the base URL the path would be to dos, then go and call our get all to dos method. Now this get all to dos method will simply return you the array of to dos object. Make sense? Then if the path is should be post, method is post and the path is to do, then go and call our add to do. And if the URL is like localhost 4000 to do's, and then you have specified ID and method type is delete, then go and call the delete method. All right. And this is how my class will look like. It is have the following methods, and I have exported this class. Make sense? So it has get all to do's that simply return as all the to do's, add to do's that will add new to do, and delete for deleting the to do. Make sense? And finally, this is the interface I have created. All right. So this is how we can create our first basic REST API with the array and the Deno. All right. Now it is time for Node.js. So I am signing off, and Dhruti will again join you, and she will let you know how you can create the REST API using Express and Node.js. So over to you, Dhruti.
Thank you, Jinal. You have explained REST API with Deno very well. Anyone can start with the REST API and Deno. Thank you for the great explanation. So yes, I'm sharing my screen, and let's do it with the Node.js. So we are creating the REST API in the Node.js. So for that, first we need to create the collection of the data, as we are not working with the live database. So for that, first I'm creating one folder inside which we can create our own files. Okay, so I'm creating one folder, and inside that I'm creating one file, say todo.js. Okay, inside this, first we will create the array that will hold our data. Okay, so I'm declaring the array let space todo. So this is the declaration for our array. Now we will need to assign some data, right? So I'm assigning the values to this array like this. So it has the data. Cool, right? Now first we are creating the methods that will get the data from this array, then get the data from the array according to the ID that will pass from the API. Okay, so first create the methods for this. So like this, we can create the function, we can create the class, and inside the class we'll create the different functions that will work for our aspects. Okay, so first I am creating the function to get all data from to do array. Okay, so for that I am passing this two argument. One is request and another one is response. Okay, we'll send response to the API using the response dot status, and status will be 200, and dot data, that is send, and inside this we'll pass our array using the JSON.stringify. Inside that we'll pass our array, that is to do. That's it. We have created one function, and this function will get the data from the array and pass it as a response. Now let's create another function that will get the data from the array according to the ID that we have passed from the REST API. So get to do by ID. Okay, again this has two arguments, one is request and another one is response. We'll pass the ID as in inside the URL, so it is so we can fetch that from the request object. So I'm first fetching the ID that we have passed inside the URL. So like this we can fetch the ID, request dot params dot ID. Okay, after that we'll need to get the data from the array. For that I'm creating one object that will hold the data from the array. So I'm using here the find method of the array that will find the object from the list of objects. Okay, I think you guys are familiar with array functions, right? So that's it. Okay, after getting the object, we need to pass this as a response. Okay, so before passing, we'll need to check if object has the value or not. So for that, I'm checking the value of the object. So if it is not null, then we'll pass as a response with the status 200 and sending the data inside the JSON dot stringify. And inside that, I'll pass my object, that is obj. And if we are not getting the object from the array, in that case, we'll pass the response with the status 401, and we'll set the message inside the send method that no data is there. Cool. We have created two basic functions for this. Now we need to create one more file that will call these functions. Okay, so for that I am creating one controller that will call these functions. Okay, but before that, you might have question that how we can access this function outside this file. Okay, so for that we need to return from here. So I'm returning the objects like this, and then I am returning this reference of these two functions that we have created. And after that, the last line should be the module.exports equals to repo. Now let's create the controller inside this folder. Okay, now inside this file, we are declaring the routes. According to these routes, this file will redirect to the control to the functions. Okay, so for that, first we need to import the express module. So for that, I am creating one variable and exporting the express module. So for that, I am using the require method, and inside that, I am passing the name of the module that we need to import. After that, we need to set the routes like this. First, I am creating the variable, say where router equals to express.router. Then we need to import this to-dos file that we have created earlier in this file. So for that, I am creating one more object, that is to-do repo, and importing that file using the require. And now we are importing that file. Cool. Okay. Now let's create the routes. So again, we are creating one class, and inside that we'll create the methods for all the HTTP requests like get, post, put, delete, etc., etc. Okay, so I'm creating one class, and inside that we'll create the different methods like router.route, and inside that we'll decide that how we will call the functions that we have created inside the repository. Okay, so if our path don't have anything, then I'll call the get method, and we have created the get method inside the repository file, and we need to pass the request and response to that function. So I'm using the arrow function. Okay, and in this I'll call to-do repo dot. Now we have all the functions. Okay, so get, I'm copying that name of the function, get all. Cool. And I'm passing the arguments, that is request and response. Okay. Now let's create another route for getting the data by the ID. So again, that will use router.route, and if our path has ID, then that will call our function that is getting data from the ID. Okay, dot get method, and inside that request and response, and we'll call our methods from the repository. Again, I'm copying the name of the function, that is get by ID. Cool. Request response. That's it. Again, first we need to import this file to use this outside this file. So for that, we'll use module dot exports equals to routes, so that we can use this outside the file. Okay. Now let's go to the app.js, because we need to transfer the control from the app.js file to the to-do controller, and this controller will redirect to the to-do repository. So I'm moving to the app.js file. I'm commenting the previous code. Okay. Now what we need to change over here, we just need to add one line, and after that our API will get working. Okay, so for that we'll need to use app.use and uses that controller file. So before that, we need to import that controller file over here. So I'm importing that controller file using the required method. It is inside the modules folder, and we'll have the file over here. Okay. Now, after that, we'll use app.use, and inside that we will create the path for our APIs. So if our URL has /todo along with the base URL, then it will be redirected to the controller file. So that is the to-do controller. That's it. Okay. So again, I am explaining everything from the beginning. So what we did, so first we have created one file, and inside that file we have created one array, and initialized the array with some basic data. Okay. After that, we have created two functions. The first one will get the data from the array and return the data as a response. The next function will get the data from the array by the ID that we have passed as an argument to the URL, and that will send back to the response. And after that, we have export this file to use this in the controller file. Okay. Now let's go to the controller file. So first, we have import the express module over here to use the routing. After that, we have create one object that will use the express routing. And then we have created functions that will redirect according to the HTTP request. Okay. Now let's check, is it working or not? So first, I'm running the application using node space app.js. Okay. So it gives an error. What it is? So it says that it requires a middleware function. Okay. Okay. Let's do it. Yeah. So it says that we are missing somewhere, and for that I'm opening some app that has already implemented the code. Okay. Now let's check over here. Okay. Control tab, control type sign, and running this again, app space node app.js. Okay. Now let's check, is it working or not? So I'm moving to the browser. and running it on localhost 3000. So yes, it's working. Now let's go to the Postman and let's check. So our path will be localhost 3000 slash todo. Okay. Now I'm moving to the Postman and copying the URL. Localhost 3000 todo. Okay, get method and say send. So you can see here is the data that we have initialized in the array. Okay. Now the next method that we have created is getting the data by the ID. So we need to pass the ID in the URL. So I'm passing the ID from here /1. Okay. And again, I'm pressing on send. So this is the response from the API, right? Now, again, let's go to the code and create some other functions to to post the data and then delete the data and then update the data. Okay. So before we, now I'm not wasting your more time. I've already created the methods for you, and there is nothing new. There is just the logic of the array and it uses the functions of the array. And I hope you all are aware of these functions. So I'm explaining the functions. So this function will create the to do. So inside this method, I have used the push method of the array, and I passed the body of the request method inside the push. Okay, and after that, I've sent the body as a response. Okay. After that, I have created one more function that will update the data of the array. Okay. What we did inside this, that first we need to get the ID from the URL using the request.params.id. After that, we need to find this value inside the array. So I have used the find index method and I find the index. And according to this index, I have updated the value that we have passed in the body section of the API. And at the end, I've passed the response like this. Okay. And last but not the least, this is the delete function. The delete function, first we need to get the ID from the URL, and then we need to filter the data, and then at the end we need to pass the data as a response. Okay. So this is all about the functions that we have created and that all are working with the arrays. And in the controller file, we need to decide the path for each of the functions, and our controller file will decide that which function need to call according to the HTTP request. So if our route has nothing after the slash, then it will call the post method, and the post method will call our add to do method of the repository. So, and if our path has the ID with the put request, then we will call the update to do method. And if our path has ID with the delete request, then we'll call the delete to do. Okay, I think it's quite easy to understand, right? And after that, if we can go to the Postman and we can check that how everything gets worked. So I'm copying this data and posting the post data. So for that, we need to set the headers. So I'm setting the headers except application/JSON, and the next one is content type. Sorry. Application/JSON, and post, passing the body. Done, and ID will be okay, post. That's it. Now let's check that if we have all the data and not. So this is all about the REST API in the Node.js. I hope you guys have enjoyed this session and find this useful as well. So give your suggestions.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dhruti, in between.
Okay.
Uh, so, guys, yes, we are almost at the end of the session. Hope you guys have liked this. Dano and Node. We tried our level best to whatever we can deliver to you, and we expect some of the feedback from your side. So you can also reach out to GDG Gandhinagar channel or GDG Gandhinagar email address. And if you want to arrange us more session on Deno on and Node.js, just do let us know, and over here in the comments, or you can like our videos. Okay, over to you, Dhruti. If you want to share anything, you can share. Good. Okay, Parth. So, do you
Yeah.
have anything to
So
share?
yeah. So there is a question in chat regarding the explanation of let and cons. So basically, whenever you are initializing a variable, you can use let or const. So the main difference is when you are using const, you cannot reinitialize that variable. So for example, we have a array. We can create, for example, my array is equal to like const my array is equal to an empty array. The only thing is you won't be able to reassign anything new to that array variable. Yet you will still be able to perform all the operations on the array, like you can add things to array, you can filter that array, right? Because that array is already initialized, you are just mutating its content. So I guess that answers the question of
Yeah, that's good.
Dhruti.
Yeah, and for the more question and answer, we can take the questions, and we can write the blog or article on that, and then we can also publish in on our channel. All right, so guys, do subscribe to the GDG Gandhinagar channel, and if you really want to have some session, let us know. Okay. Thank you very much for joining again. See you soon on the next webinar.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us, and you can subscribe to our channel, like, comment. And we are going to be releasing a new episode of Dev Talks today evening. So if you are interested, you can stay tuned to our Twitter handle. All the latest updates will be published there, and details for the next stream or webinar will be also there on Twitter. So be sure that you follow us on Twitter at the rate TDG Gandhinagar, TDG underscore Gandhinagar. Thank you everyone. Okay,
Thank you.
that's today.
Thanks, Ruti, for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Goodbye.
Goodbye.